Last week, Donald Trump finally signed a deal that would force the sale of TikTok from a Chinese company to a collection of American companies. You might remember that Congress banned TikTok in America last year. They said that they were banning TikTok because of concerns about data and privacy. They said that as long as TikTok is owned by a Chinese company, they said, the Chinese government could spy on American devices and American data and citizens. They said, so unless TikTok is sold to an American company, then it's an unacceptable national security threat, so it must be banned. Do you know who welcomed that development? The North American Jewish Federation, the ADL. That bill was passed in the spring of 2024, just a few months after the October 7th war began, after the war in Gaza began. And coincidentally, TikTok became a big problem all of a sudden after the ADL found that unlike any other social platform, people were more sympathetic to Palestine on TikTok than they were towards Israel. Every other platform was the opposite. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, the pro-Israel hashtags, pro-Israel sentiment was 90 to 10 more common. On TikTok, it was the reverse. So like I said, Friday, they inked the deal. And we covered this a little bit last week. We talked about now who's going to own TikTok. So throughout 2024, the ADL, the North American Jewish Federation, Nikki Haley, the neocon, they all said that TikTok is a hotbed of anti-Semitism. The more time you spend on TikTok, the more anti-Semitic you get. That's why we need to ban it. Well, they banned it. Trump took office. He forced the sale. An American company bought it. Who acquired TikTok? Well, a consortium of American companies took a 45% stake in TikTok's American business. The leading company in that American consortium is Oracle. Oracle is one of the most valuable Silicon Valley tech companies in the world. You might not have heard of it, though. You know about Facebook, you know about Google, so you know about Meta and Alphabet. Those are the parent companies. You know about Amazon, Microsoft, Netflix, Fang, whatever you want to call it. Oracle is a lot less known because it's a back-end service. It provides data hosting services. It's more software side, but it's still one of the most valuable companies and important tech companies in the world. It's owned by Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison briefly became the richest man in the world last week. He's got a net worth north of $350 billion. Larry Ellison owns Oracle. Oracle acquired TikTok. Larry Ellison is a Jewish Zionist. Larry Ellison is the largest private donor to the Israeli Defense Forces in history, has given the biggest private donations to Israel's military of all time. Not only that, he is a personal friend of Benjamin Netanyahu. So close, in fact, that Larry Ellison invited Bibi Netanyahu's family to vacation on his private Hawaiian island several years ago, where he personally hosted the Netanyahus and they had dinner together. Netanyahu actually received political support from Larry Ellison. He tried to get Larry Ellison to buy a newspaper in Israel that was critical, of Netanyahu's governing party and his government. Larry Ellison convinced a Hollywood mogul, another Jew by the name of Arnon Milchan, to fire his lawyer so that Netanyahu could hire that Jewish lawyer in his legal defense against the state in his corruption cases. Larry Ellison is like this with Bibi Netanyahu. They work together. They operate together. Ellison has gotten Netanyahu out of political problems, legal problems. They vacation together. Larry Ellison offered Netanyahu a spot on Oracle's board. So Netanyahu would have a controlling interest in the company.
Chat. Finally, dude. Fuck. Took me forever just now.
That's who just
fucking
bought
roll that
TikTok.
out.
And what was really interesting, of course, we covered all this.
Listening to some Fuentes.
To say the least, it's
listening to some
it's
Fuentes.
suspicious.
Hitting the fucking
But it
L.
gets better. Just a day after Larry Ellison bought TikTok, and this was brokered by the Trump administration, just a day after that happened, Bibi Netanyahu held a panel with American social media influencers, and he said specifically that TikTok is the 8th front in Israel's ongoing war in the Middle East. This is a story from Jewish Insider. It says, quote, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu expressed hope on Friday that the sale of TikTok to a joint venture partially owned by Oracle CEO Larry Ellison would be completed. He said weapons change over time. To a group of pro-Israel influencers in New York on the sidelines of the General Assembly. You can't fight today with swords, and you can't fight with cavalry. You have to fight with weapons that apply to the battlefield. And one of the most important battlefields is social media. Netanyahu called the sale of TikTok the most important purchase happening. He said, I hope it goes through because it could be consequential. Following a law requiring TikTok's owner to sell the app's U.S. operations or be banned, President Trump signed an executive order last week authorizing a new company to buy much of TikTok's business. The company, started by Oracle, owned by longtime Netanyahu.
Put me on chat. What starting shot start using? Yo, I lit the wrong side of my L, bro.
TikTok's operation stateside.
Jesus
Oracle
Christ.
would oversee security operations, and Trump said that Ellison's company is playing a very big
wow.
part.
I sparked the wrong side of my L chat.
Who also said that, quote, we have to talk to Elon Musk, describing the ex-owner as not an enemy but a friend. He talked about the, quote, woke right. He said, I call it the woke Reich. These people, they're not any different from the woke left. They're insane, he said. What we need to do is secure that place of our support in the U.S. that is being challenged systematically. We have to fight the fight, give direction to the Jewish people and direction to our non-Jewish friends or those who could be our friends. The Jewish Federation of North America said the following. They said, quote, the Jewish Federations of North America are pleased that the TikTok deal is moving forward, transferring control of the platform to a U.S. entity, and we thank President Trump for his persistence on this important issue.
He sees the problem here, though. He sees it.
Protecting our community from hate and extremism online. Really? I thought it was about China surveilling us and our data. Now it's about hate speech and anti-Semitism. Isn't that interesting? It says the Jewish Federation of North America were the only Jewish organization to support the bill to ban TikTok when it was introduced in March 2024 because of its terrible impact on the rise in anti-Semitism. Our community understands that social media is a major driver in this spike.
Oh, shit.
Closely to work the new U.S. ownership structure to ensure TikTok takes meaningful, measurable action to curb anti-Semitism and safeguard all users and work with Congress and the Trump administration to fulfill the goals of the act. So you're seeing in real time,
this guy's pissing me off, man.
Explicitly, directly, openly, Israel is buying American media because it's too critical of Israel. And they are buying it with the stated intention of censoring speech that is critical of U.S. support for their country. What else would you call this? Other than a foreign occupation.
Dude, where I'm living at, it shouldn't be this fucking hot right now.
What else would you call this other than Jewish
Dude,
media?
is this guy for real?
That's what it is, by definition. And it's very simple. Let's review the timeline. October 7th, the Palestinians attack Israel. By the end of the month, Israel has imposed a blockade. No food, no water, no fuel, no electricity, no medical supplies. And they're bombing the Palestinians hard, indiscriminately, killing civilians, women, children, infrastructure. Within a month, they're invading. And it's brutal. The casualties are high. As a result, TikTok, the only major U.S. platform that is not headquartered in America, but is headquartered in China, on this foreign-owned social platform, the American user base becomes very critical of Israel's war. They are sympathetic to the plight of the Palestinians.
About fucking time, dude.
They
are
shocked and horrified at the images and videos of suffering. And they're calling for an end to Israel's war and America's support for the war. That's part one. Part two. In December 2023, just a couple of months into the war, the Anti-Defamation League, which is a Jewish organization, starts to create these analytics, these reports.
Like, you know, I want his queen, all that.
To measure
all
that.
The
conversation on TikTok is turning decidedly against Israel. So then they deliver these reports to American congressmen who already support Israel. AIPAC supported pro-Israel Republican congressmen. At this time, Republicans are in control of the House. The Republicans are influenced by AIPAC and the Republican Jewish Committee. Republicans like Elise Stefanik from New York, a Jewish stronghold, are very pro-Israel, have all pro-Israel donors. They take these reports from the ADL and they introduce a bill in Congress that says we need to ban TikTok. It's too anti-Semitic. They have Jewish backers. The Jewish backers pick up the phone and say, hey, TikTok's a problem. They're turning against Israel. We have the data straight from the ADL. The Jewish-backed congressmen write a bill. And they say if China doesn't sell
oh my God, I'm an idiot.
To a U.S. company, then TikTok is not allowed in America. What happens a year later? A Republican president comes to power with $100 million from the Zionist Jew, Miriam Adelson, with tens or hundreds of millions of dollars from other major pro-Israel Jewish donors, from Silicon Valley, friends of Netanyahu, friends of Israel. Trump saves TikTok. He prevents it from being banned. He facilitates the sale of TikTok to the Prime Minister of Israel's best friend, Larry Ellison, the second richest man in the world. And now that Larry Ellison, a friend of Israel's defense forces who are fighting that war, a friend of Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, who authored this war, he now owns TikTok. And what do you think he's going to do with it now? He is going to curb anti-Semitism. He is going to censor the platform to prevent an American user base from criticizing Israel and America's support for Israel. QED, that's how that works. People say, what is going on with the Jews? What is going on with Israel? That is what is going on with Israel. Now, keep in mind, it is not all foreign-based. The North American Jewish Federation, the ADL, Larry Ellison, these are all American-born people and institutions. Larry Ellison is not an Israeli. He's an American Jew. The ADL is ostensibly an American-based Jewish organization. So is the Republican Jewish Coalition. So is AIPAC. So is the North American Jewish Federations. These are all Native American people and institutions. And yet they work on behalf of Israel. Larry Ellison, the ADL, North American Jewish Federation, AIPAC, RJC, born in America, working for Israel. Are you starting to see the problem? You can't call them Israeli. You might be able to call them Zionist. I would just call them Jewish. That is what they have in common with Israel. That is what they have in common with each other. That is what they are. Israel is the Jewish state. This is how that works. Now, when China sells TikTok to a Jewish businessman to ban anti-Semitism, this is celebrated and welcomed by the Jewish lobby and by the Prime Minister of Israel, who says this is the most important deal ever. My best friend bought TikTok, the only platform that was criticizing our war. This is an awesome development. Why do you think he said that? And he described the acquisition of a social platform like TikTok as another front in his war. Why did he describe it as such? What are the other fronts in the war? There are 7 fronts. Israel is fighting in Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, and Iran. They're fighting on 7 territorial fronts in the Middle East. They're fighting Hamas in Gaza. They're fighting Palestinian Islamic Jihad in the West Bank, Hezbollah in Lebanon. They're fighting the Shiite militias in Syria and Iraq, the Houthis in Yemen, and they're fighting the Iranian regime in Iran. Those are the 7 fronts. He said the 8th front is social media, American social media, because it is on American social media where the American public talks about whether the United States should give Israel weapons, the weapons they use to fight on all the other fronts. It is on the American social platforms where American citizens, voters, policymakers, tastemakers, influencers, it is on the social platforms where they shape opinion, they shape the narrative that influences how people vote, what the U.S. policies are, and whether Israel gets the guns and bombs and airplanes and political support to fight all of those different groups and countries. That's why it's part of their war. That's why it's the 8th front in their war. You may not care about Israel, but Israel cares about you. They care about your For You page. They care about your timeline. They care about what you think and whether you support them. And when you don't like Israel, they really don't like that. And you may have a passing antipathy for Israel, but Israel ferociously and intensely hates that you're not on board with them. You may shrug your shoulders and say, I don't care about Israel. I don't really like them. If that ever becomes policy, Israel is in real trouble. So they care deeply. They care that you support Israel way more than you may care about Israel, pro or con. That's why we need to care about their foreign influence. We need to care about who owns TikTok. But it gets better than that. This is only the beginning. Remember, Charlie Kirk said to Netanyahu, you are in retreat. He said, Netanyahu, you need tough love. You're losing the information war, and you're not even fighting. He said, you're in retreat. He said, you need to be aggressive. You need to fight and punch back hard against anti-Semitism. Well, I would say this is a pretty big blow. TikTok is the fastest growing social platform. It's one of the biggest in the world. It definitely skews younger than all the others. And it was the most anti-Israel. And now they got it. Now they own it. It's theirs. And by the way, that was facilitated by the Trump administration. Let's not forget, Trump is pro-Israel. Trump is friendly to Netanyahu. His son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who's running the White House, is a personal friend of Netanyahu. This would not have happened.
I just want to see this nigga
if
get
Trump
the fucking
were not
checkmate
president.
at this point.
There's another major donor, Jeffrey Yass. He gave Donald Trump $100 million. He was a single-issue voter. He wanted this deal to happen. Okay? So there's a triangulation here. You've got Israel that wants us to support their wars. You have Israel's Jewish billionaire allies in America that influence our political system. And then you have the Republican Party, which does the bidding of these American Jewish billionaires. Fox News is an Israel-owned asset. The Wall Street Journal, the New York Post, the Republican Party, these are all Israel-owned assets. They work for Sheldon Adelson. They work for Jewish billionaires. They work for AIPAC. They're friendly to Netanyahu. They're Christian, evangelical, dispensationalist, pro-Israel Christians. Okay, it's a triangle. There are 3 points here. Israel, the American Jewish community, which is very liberal, by the way, and the Republican Party. That is what forms this triangle that delivers us to war in Iraq, which bombs Iran, which delivers TikTok into the hands of Netanyahu. Trump's best friend Ellison, his best friend Netanyahu, Trump brings them together to take control of American social media and ban Israel critical speech. So while you were looking over there at the deportations and the Department of War and the Gulf of America and the military parade and the spectacle, the Republican Party was selling you out to Israel. That's not America first. That's why I didn't vote for Trump. That's Israel first. And unless and until you recognize that the GOP is controlled by Israel, unless you realize the GOP will never be America first, as long as that is the case, then you are going to keep falling for it. Is it worth it? If Trump brings us to war in Iran, if Trump is deporting anti-Semites, if he is ensuring that Jews control Harvard, Jews control TikTok, Jews control CBS, Jews control what we can say on a college campus, on social media, is that really worth the corporate tax cuts that we're getting? Is that worth the big, beautiful bill?
Fuck.
It seems like you elect Democrats, you get mass migration. You elect Republicans, you get Israel controlling everything. And it just oscillates, it trades. Democrats get elected, they let in 10 million immigrants. Republicans get elected, they do more wars for Israel. And it's just a revolving door. Until America is destroyed, until this parasitic entity sucks all the blood out of America. That's what it seems to be. But it gets better. Let's not get away from the subject at hand. So Larry Ellison is the second richest man in the world. He runs Oracle, one of the most important Silicon Valley companies, which, by the way, has its roots in the CIA. One of Larry Ellison's first jobs is for the CIA. They're all like this. The same story is true about PayPal. PayPal is created at Stanford in a cryptography department run by an Israeli Jew. When you look at all the Silicon Valley companies, they're all deeply embedded with the CIA in Israel. That's just an aside. That's something to keep in mind. Larry Ellison, second richest man in the world, he backs the acquisition of TikTok by this newly created company on behalf of his close personal friend Netanyahu. They now control it. But this is only one of the moves they're making. Larry Ellison has a son, David Ellison. David Ellison recently completed the merger of his existing media company with Paramount Global. Paramount Global is one of the big media conglomerates of America, formerly run by Sherry Redstone, daughter of Sumner Redstone, a Jewish Israeli operative, is how I would characterize him. They're now backing the acquisition of this newly created media conglomerate, Skydance, Paramount. Larry Ellison, his father, is backing the merger of Paramount now with Warner Brothers. He will own TikTok. He will own Paramount Global. He will own Warner Brothers Studios, all in the same family. This is all happening at the same time. He acquires TikTok. His son acquires Paramount, one of the big media conglomerates. They're going to merge that with yet another one of the big media conglomerates, forming arguably the biggest media conglomerate in the world. TikTok, Paramount, Warner Brothers. TikTok, Showtime, HBO Max, CBS, CNN, the rights to stream UFC, TBS. They're going to own all of it in the same family, all of it at the same time, all of it under the control of a Jewish pro-Israel family, friends of the Israeli Defense Forces, personal friends with the Netanyahus. Jewish media, is that a harmful stereotype? Is that a harmful trope? Or is that just a description? This is the story about these acquisitions, very direct. It says, quote, In August 2025, David Ellison, son of Larry Ellison, his company, Skydance Media, finalized an $8 billion merger with Paramount Global, forming the new Paramount Skydance Corporation. The deal combines Skydance's production with Paramount's major media assets, including CBS, one of the major television networks, MTV, Showtime, and Nickelodeon. David Ellison became chairman and CEO of the newly created company. The FCC approved the merger earlier this year. Trump's FCC. Reuters described it as a landmark consolidation in the U.S. media industry, cementing David Ellison's position at the top of Hollywood. So his father, Larry, runs TikTok. The son, David, is at the top of Hollywood running all that. The new company has already been linked to fresh expansion plans. It has explored a bid for Warner Brothers Discovery, which owns CNN, HBO, and TBS. The group also struck a deal to secure exclusive U.S. broadcast rights for UFC events, strengthening its sports media portfolio. Who recently acquired UFC? Ari Emanuel, brother of Rahm Emanuel. Ari Emanuel is the same one that led the cancellation of Ye, formerly of major talent agencies. His father was an Israeli soldier. Okay? Ari Emanuel takes control of UFC. Now, David Ellison has exclusive streaming rights to the UFC fights at his newly created Skydance Paramount conglomerate. Ellison has been in talks to acquire the Free Press, which is Bari Weiss's publication, for over 2 months. Any deal is expected to put the price tag for the Free Press at over $100 million. The total price still being negotiated depends on how long Bari Weiss stays at Paramount, where she will become an executive there.
All right, let me think here.
Some expect the value to exceed $150 million. For those that don't know, Bari Weiss is practically an Israeli spy. She studied at Columbia University, where she led the charge to get pro-Palestine professors fired from their jobs with the David Project, a pro-Israel campus group. After she graduated Columbia, she went to Israel to study under Yoram Hazony at his Shalem Center. Then she went to work for Bret Stephens, a Jewish columnist at the Wall Street Journal, owned by News Corp, Rupert Murdoch, friend of Netanyahu. Bret Stephens then took her to the New York Times, where he writes the editorials. Bari Weiss is going to get a $100 million payday. Now that David Ellison owns CBS, he's going to pay her $100 million to buy her outfit and give her a top executive spot. Just like that. Have you ever heard of the Free Press? Probably not. They say it's worth $100 million. Bari Weiss is also tight with Mark Andreessen, head of Andreessen Horowitz, one of the top venture capital firms in Silicon Valley. Horowitz is a major pro-Israel Jew. Son is a major Jewish activist, or his father is, I should say. Bari Weiss also has backing from Peter Thiel, mentor of J.D. Vance. Are you starting to see how they're keeping it all in the family? Are you now starting to get it? Are you starting to see how the fix is in? So this newly created entity under Larry and David Ellison, let's just review. They will own TikTok outright. They will own Paramount Global and potentially Warner Brothers Discovery. That will include, in all their properties, CBS, MTV, Showtime, Nickelodeon. It will include CNN, HBO, HBO Max, TBS. It will include UFC. Then they're going to hire Bari Weiss, buy her out of the Free Press, and make her an executive. All of this under Larry Ellison, close personal friend of Benjamin Netanyahu. Do you think you're going to get a lot of Israel-critical content on any of these platforms?
Damn.
You think that's in the cards?
Wow, that's crazy. I'm a dumbass.
This is who owns your mind. They control content creation. They control content distribution. Think of it. Skydance and Paramount and Warner Brothers have studios. They have hard capital assets, lights, camera, stages, the LED video walls now, which they call
still
the
up though. I
volume.
should
This
be
is
able to
where
win
they shoot
still.
all the new
Good checkmate.
television shows. Think about the vertical and horizontal integration here. These are business terms. They own the literal studios where the content is created. They own the sound stages, the volume, the video walls, lights, cameras, all that. They also own, then, the television stations, the websites, the streaming services. So they own HBO, they own HBO Max, the app, the streaming experience. They own CNN, which broadcasts the news. They own CBS, which broadcasts the television shows. They own all that. Then they own TikTok, which is where these shows are promoted, where they advertise, where the shows are distributed. CNN, of course, has a TikTok channel. This is where they put the propaganda. So they own the studios, they own the channels, they own the social platforms.
So
they own
here,
the whole process. And this is going to be one of the biggest media conglomerates in America. For the first time, combining the social platforms, Hollywood, television, streaming, all in one. Elon Musk owns X. Bezos owns the Washington Post and Twitch.
No! Fuck.
The Ellisons are going to own CNN, CBS, MTV, Showtime, HBO Max, TBS, Nickelodeon, UFC.
This guy's not good, bro.
And
but
TikTok.
I gotta get this checkmate.
Paramount Studios, Warner Brothers Studios, all in one. And Larry Ellison is finding lawyers for Netanyahu for his legal
Yes!
defense.
Oh my gosh.
Larry Ellison is helping Netanyahu buy out his rival daily news websites. Larry Ellison is hosting Netanyahu at his private island, offering him a seat on the board of his company. Larry Ellison's a friend of the Trump government, which is tight with Netanyahu. This is occupation. This is the Jewish nation. These are Jewish gangsters. That's
take
what they
that.
are. You know, they wear fancy suits and they're rich and they have finer things than all of us. But do not forget, they are gangsters. Did they ascend the ladder because of their business prowess? On some level, they're extremely cunning. But in many ways, the fix is in. The CIA gave Larry Ellison the technology. He got a license to own all the data systems in the world. He gets $300 billion. He buys all the networks. He gives Bari Weiss $100 million. She's not worth that much to now run CBS. These are gangsters. This is gangster activity. This is third world shit. This is not first world. This is a meritocracy. They want to talk about a colorblind meritocracy. They want to say it's our high IQ. It's our focus on education. It's not a focus on education. It's nepotism. It's tribalism. It is base, primitive tribalism. It is a lack of scruples. It is a lack of honor. It is gangsterish tribalism. That is all they are. And Bari Weiss, they have a bust of her head at University of Austin. She's got her glasses on, and people are going to treat her now like she's some intellectual. She didn't earn that position. She's an intelligence asset. They groomed her out of college. She gets picked up because she's a pro-Israel activist. They transport her to Israel where she gets trained to write op-eds. Then they give her resume to Brett Stevens, who's already there. He gives her clout. He gives her credibility. Andreessen Horowitz and Peter Thiel set her up with the Free Press and University of Austin. Now she's at the tippy top of Hollywood getting a $100 million payday from David Ellison from the Silicon Valley CIA Unit 8200 Nexus. How does Bari Weiss go from Columbia student to the head of CNN or CBS? Was that through merit? Was that because she's a genius? Or is it because she's a Jew? Is it because they help each other? Is it because they're nepotistic, tribalistic? because they are waging a war on us.
Damn, I'm a dumbass. I do that every single fucking
Americans.
time.
They have infiltrated and penetrated every sector of our elite society, all the important decision-making institutions. Is this paranoia? Am I crazy? It's what it is. It's what it is. They're fighting this war. It's a massacre. Everyone is horrified. They're expressing their horror. They want it to stop. So what do the Jews do? They buy the media to tell us not to think about it. And that is exactly how it happened. They noticed people started to hate what Israel was doing, so they bought the media so that no one can talk about it anymore.
Thanks, bud.
They said, oy vey, those stupid Americans don't like our brutal war of aggression.
Fuck.
We just gotta buy the media so
that
no one finds out about it, so that we can suppress coverage of it, and we can suppress anyone that opposes it. And that way, everyone's gonna be on our side.
What do I do from here, though?
We're a colony. Like, that is a more, understand, that is a more total and more overt form of foreign control than the British Empire ever had over America, or any of its colonies for that matter. We were more free as British colonists. I shouldn't even say we. I'm Italian and Mexican and Irish. But you were more free in the Roman Empire as a slave. You're more free as a serf in Russia. You're more free as a colonist in America than we are today. Think about it. How do we even know what's going on in the world? The timeline. How do you get your news? Your device, your apps, your timeline. And your timeline is populated by the algorithm. And the algorithm selects certain media outlets to show you. They're going to control all that. They're going to control CNN, which makes the news clips. They're going to control TikTok, which puts the news clips in front of your face. And that's all you're going to see. That's what we call the Matrix. You see why we call it the Matrix? It's not real. It is a hologram. It is not a literal hologram, but metaphorically, it is a simulated media reality that you inhabit. Your opinions, your tastes, the information that you think you came up with on your own, that you think came to you organically, they were put in front of you. Okay, a screen was lowered in front of your face, and a display is showing you what you should think, what you should know, what opinions you should have, who you should like, who you should dislike, who you should hate, who you should kill, who you should vote for. That's the Matrix. And when you look at the names behind the Matrix, Sherry Redstone, how about Rothstein? That's your family name. Why'd you change it? David Ellison, how about Spellman? Their real name, which they also changed. Those are all fake names. It's always the same names, and then they change the names. That's the Matrix. By the way, this is all happening in the open. This is not a conspiracy theory. I didn't make this up. People say it's anti-Semitism. How exactly? That's just what's happening. The Jewish organizations said, ban TikTok, too much Israel criticism. The government said, yes, master, we will do it. They did it. And now a Jew who loves Netanyahu owns TikTok. And the Jewish organizations are celebrating, saying, finally, we could get rid of anti-Semitism. So that's just reality. It gets better. Same day, there's another story about how Trump's top social media strategist is now a paid lobbyist for Israel. Brad Parscale, who ran the digital operation, recently registered under the Foreign Agent Registration Act as a lobbyist for Israel. Get a load of this. It says, quote, Brad Parscale, top aide on President Trump's first two campaigns, registered as a foreign agent to work on behalf of Israel and create digital media combating anti-Semitism. While Israel has been hemorrhaging support among Democrats for years, it's starting to see similar trends among Republicans. Parscale began working with the Israeli government on September 18th according to paperwork filed under FARA. Parscale registered a company called Clock Tower X LLC and is working with the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs. His contract states that Parscale will provide strategic communications, planning, and media services to develop and execute a nationwide campaign in America to combat anti-Semitism. At least 80% of the content will be tailored to Generation Z across platforms including TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, podcasts, and other relevant digital and broadcast outlets. The paid media campaigns are aiming to achieve 50 million digital impressions per month. They will stand up websites and content to deliver GPT framing results on GPT conversations, seemingly to create data for AI models to train on. Clock Tower will integrate its narrative messaging with Salem Media Network, a conservative radio network, though it wasn't immediately clear exactly what that communication would look like. Okay?
Little Vienna, come on.
So, who owns your mind? Zuckerberg runs Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram, Jewish. Alphabet, which owns Google and YouTube, is run by a couple of Jews.
You can have my
Larry Page, Sergey Brin.
I want that queen, nigga.
Okay. So that's YouTube, Google, Facebook, Instagram.
Yes,
TikTok is now owned by Larry Ellison. So that's TikTok as well. Those are your social platforms. Out of the big media conglomerates, you got Disney, which is run by Bob Iger. You got NBC and Universal, which are run by Jews. You have CBS, Warner Bros., Paramount Studios, now run by David Ellison. You've got the Salem Radio Network and Brad Parscale working on behalf of Israel. You've got Fox News, Wall Street Journal under the Murdochs, they're friends of Israel. You've got Daily Wire, Prager University, Breitbart, all run by Jewish editors, Jewish owners. Are you starting to get it? This is why I call myself America First. You have to understand that triangulation. It is being run out of the Foreign Ministry of Israel in concert with American Jewish billionaires, expressed through the Republican Party apparatus. Brad Parscale from the Trump campaign is now an Israeli
I need to learn some more
lobbyist.
defenses, bro.
They're going to be cutting checks to Influenceable and other similar organizations, paying people thousands of dollars to post pro-Israel content without disclosing that that's what that is. It's going to be promoted on TikTok, which is owned by Ellison. Bari Weiss is running CBS. Trump brokered the TikTok deal. This is the stranglehold they have over our country. This is why things are the way that they are. People call us woke right for noticing it, anti-Semites for noticing it, conspiracy theorists. Think about every one of these institutions, whether it's AIPAC, putting in $100 million to defeat any congressman that voted against foreign aid to Israel. The head of the National Security Council of America was fired because he was working for Netanyahu. He gives the intelligence briefings combining
give it up
DOD,
every time,
State
yo.
Department, DNI to the President of the United States.
They give it up every
The
time.
Secretary
Give
of
me that
State, which
fucking
took over
queen.
for him and now runs the State Department
Yes,
and the
yes,
National
yes.
Security Council.
I
Rubio
had my fucking night.
is a client of the Israel lobby. All the social platforms are now run by Jews effectively. All the major media conglomerates run by Jews. 5 out of the 8 Ivy League universities have Jewish presidents. Everywhere you look, they have increased their control, their stranglehold over elite society. And when they win these wars in the Middle East, think about what they're doing. They're going to take over Gaza and the West Bank. They're going to bring Syria and Lebanon to heel. They're going to topple Iran. And once they do, Israel's going to become a very rich country. They're going to have the sovereign wealth funds of Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, pouring all their oil money into Israel. Israel's going to get all this money from the trade that goes through the Rimland. All the trade from India to Europe, China to Europe, all the trade that goes through the Suez, the Persian Gulf, all the trade that goes overland through the Middle East, they're going to collect a toll on all that. their allies are running Wall Street, running Silicon Valley, running all the AI companies, all the future industries. Do you understand the gravity of how much power the Jews wield in the world today and how much more power they'll wield when they're finished with what they're doing in the Middle East? You thought we couldn't stop them before? Wait until they don't need us. What happens when Iran doesn't have 1,000 missiles pointed at them, keeping them in check? What happens when they don't need our weapons because they have no adversaries in the Middle East? And they have this level of influence over America, in Russia, in Europe. That's checkmate. Checkmate. They're a global power.
Ironic.
We got to stop pretending. This Jewish nation that sits atop all the countries, it is a global power. I'm an American. I want America to be the preeminent global power. I want Americans to be the preeminent global power, not American Jews loyal to Jewry and Israel. I want Americans loyal to America, born in America. I want Christians to be powerful. I want Europeans to be powerful. I don't want to live in a world that is divided up into colonies by India, China, and the Jews, while white people are exterminated, because that's kind of where it's headed. Europe going the way of diversity, America going the way of diversity, lorded over by the American Jewish billionaires answering to Israel. I don't want to live in a world that's divided up between Africans, Indians, Chinese people, and then this dwindling America and Europe where whites are waiting to go extinct. I want a new Roman Empire. I want a new white imperium.
That's checkmate.
White racial Europeans in Europe, in America, in Canada, in Australia that actually have real power, not infiltrated by Jews, that is sitting at that high table with the other people.
That'd have been checkmate right there, bitch.
That is not what we have.
Well, I wouldn't have, but
so anyway, that's
take the dub
anyways.
anyways.
About our new media overlords. Well, folks, we had a good run, didn't we? We had a good run. We had a good run. We had a good generational run. We were criticizing Israel. We were red-pilling people on 9/11 and JFK. We were making 6 million jokes, throwing up Romans, making Hitler edits. We had, you know, for a couple of goofy goobers, not bad, huh? Larry Ellison owns all the media. I don't know how much longer that's going to last.
Oh my God. This nigga's
now
unserious.
that Israel is in their end game, in their 8-front war against the world to like kill whoever they want for the right to genocide defenseless people. I don't know how much more we're gonna get.
That's hilarious.
So it's been real. It's been fun. But yeah, I think you can start to expect some changes happening on all of the American media landscape because under new management, let's just put it that way. Under new management. Well,
come on, homeboy. Not getting me that easy.
Sort of recapturing. Whoops, we let one by the goalie. Accidentally let some other country run the media for a couple of years. And now everything is back in its right place. It's the media firmly under the control of the Jews. Love to see it. We actually hate to see that. We don't like to see that at all.
Oh, dang. Let's see what else you got on here real quick. Alright, here we go. I did want to hear about this.
We'll talk about the H-1B
Still
first
hasn't
because
gone.
I haven't gotten to this in days, but I've been meaning to. This is a big one. And we've talked about it. We talked about it last night. We talked about it a little bit on Friday. This was a big story last week. There was a press conference convened in the Oval Office with the President, Donald Trump, and the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick. And they announced a series of immigration reforms. The first and the biggest of which was a new policy for the H-1B visa program. Now, for those that don't know, just very briefly, H-1B visa is a category that was created in the 1990 Immigration Act. Before you had H visas, and those were temporary work visas. The 1990 Immigration Act created a new subset of H visas, H-1B, H-2B, which has been retired, H-1A, H-2A. And these were different types of temporary work visas for different types of jobs. H-1B is a subcategory created by that Immigration Act, and it was for specialized workers. These are for specialists.
Could have took my queen. That's crazy.
There's a cutout for specialized workers with master's degrees, but this is for workers that have specialized skills. And in particular, it is for certain jobs in certain industries where the American labor market is not meeting the demands of those specialized types of jobs. And in order to get an H-1B visa, an employer has to demonstrate that they have first tried to fill that position with American labor. You have to demonstrate we tried to hire Americans, we can't hire Americans. That is why we need to look for specialized labor from foreign countries. Now, over time, and I think maybe this was by design from the very beginning, although that is how this was sold to the American public, sounds good on paper, where the American labor market cannot meet the demands of American companies, we're going to bring in foreign labor on a temporary basis, only for jobs where we're absolutely certain no Americans can fill that role, and that's going to supplement the American economy. If that's how it was sold to us in theory, that's not how it works in practice. What has happened since the 1990 Immigration Act went into effect is that H-1B, like many other types of work visas and immigration programs, has been abused. And companies and firms have found all kinds of loopholes to get around some of these requirements. And what it has become is a way to facilitate foreign labor coming into America because it is cheaper than American labor. And so one of the loopholes, for example, Elon Musk has done this. They will put a job listing for a certain role in their company in a newspaper, but they'll make the print so small and they'll bury it in the back of the paper so that nobody can possibly see it. I'm not making this up. You can look for this stuff and you can find it. These are some of the ways they get around the requirements. It's so deceptive. They'll print a help wanted ad in a paper, but they'll literally just make the font so small that it's unreadable, and then they could go to the government and they can say, look, we tried to fill the job with American labor, but nobody signed up. So we need to bring in Indians and Chinese on a temporary basis. And it has turned into a scam where they prefer foreign labor to American labor because it's cheaper.
Wow, I can't believe I just
They
fucked
can
that
pay
up.
lower wages. And as long as a foreign worker is in the country on
Damn,
an
can't believe I
H-1B
just
visa,
fucked that up. That's crazy.
the H-1B visa is sponsored by the company itself. So the H-1B worker is completely dependent on their employer. It makes them something like a vassal, like an indentured servant.
Damn.
They're like a feudal peasant working on a manor, working for a feudal lord.
My work is literally cooked right here.
If that worker is terminated by the company, they go back to India. They go back to China. So not only are they paid a lower wage, but you can really treat these people however you want. You don't have to give them great benefits. You don't have to have the same kind of workplace. You really can get away with anything with these people. You can overwork them, don't have to pay them overtime. You can treat these people however you want because they will do anything to be in America. So they'll work for any wage, they'll work in any environment, they'll work in any kind of conditions because they know if they get fired, it's adios. And of course, here's the real kicker. These H-1B workers, they then eventually become eligible for a green card. That means permanent residency. So if they're a good feudal peasant, and if they work for pennies on the dollar, at the end of their term here, I think it's after 6 or 7 years, then they're eligible for a green card, also sponsored by their employer, and then they're here on a permanent basis. Then they're here as lawful permanent residents. This is the scam that is being run on our country. And here is the tangible damage. What is happening now is that the job market is absolutely frozen. Nobody's getting fired, but nobody's getting hired. And so the people that are unemployed, they stay unemployed. Young Americans go to college, they pay out the ass for a STEM degree. You know how expensive it is to go to college, and that's what everybody's told. Graduate high school, go to college. It's expensive, but they say it's worth it because you need that ticket to get into the job market. And what are the young men and even the young women being told? Go to college, get a STEM degree. Don't apply for work. Don't get experience. You got to saddle yourself with tons of student loans. You got to spend your prime working years, 4 years, going to school, getting a STEM degree so you can set yourself up for success. Well, what are the Silicon Valley companies doing? What are the Silicon Valley companies that are the beneficiaries of low interest rates? That are the beneficiaries of government contracts, that are the beneficiaries of favorable regulations, immigration policy, trade policy? What are they doing? Rather than give the good paying jobs, rather than providing an on-ramp into future success and giving experience to young Americans that need to pay off their loans, that want to start climbing that ladder, try to rise up and get some economic mobility, instead of giving those great jobs in the most advanced sectors with the most upward potential, instead of giving those jobs to Americans, they're giving them to Indians. Because Indians are like slaves. Indians are dependent on Silicon Valley to stay here. They'll work for nothing in any conditions. And they're disposable, completely expendable. That's the H-1B program. Now, in 2016, Trump's policy towards H-1B is that we should just eradicate it altogether. Just get rid of it. Scrap it. Trump's policy in 2016, he flip-flopped throughout the campaign. But ultimately, by the end of the Republican primary, he decided H-1B has to go. And during his first term, he tried to pass a ton of executive orders to reform or replace the H-1B program. There were actually dozens, maybe hundreds of executive orders aimed at reforming H-1B in his first term. In spite of that, the H-1B visa cap was met every single year. So every single year, they brought in something like 120, 140,000 H-1Bs. Even though they were trying to get rid of it, it still kept going, kept plugging along. Well, famously, what happened in 2024? Silicon Valley came in heavy for the Republicans and for Donald Trump. Elon Musk, David Sachs, Jacob Hellberg, all these Silicon Valley titans, they poured millions, hundreds of millions of dollars into Trump's campaign. And they got Trump on the All In podcast last year. They got him at a fundraiser at David Sachs' house.
I didn't mean to do that. Whatever,
and in order to secure the money from Silicon Valley, they got Trump to commit to bringing in limitless student visas, worker visas, to fill up Silicon Valley with as many Indian programmers as they need to build out their companies. And this was a very contentious debate during the transition. After the election, before the inauguration, you might remember with Elon Musk and Sriram Krishnam, who was hired to be one of the technology czars in the White House. All eyes were on Trump and the H-1B policy. Is he going to stay true to the America First labor policy of 2016 and eradicate H-1B? Or is he going to completely betray America First, destroy the cap, and bring in limitless H-1Bs on behalf and at the behest of Silicon Valley? That was the question. Now, last week, there was a meeting in the Oval Office regarding the H-1B visa program, and they made an announcement. They said that they're changing the rules for H-1B, and they're going to impose a $100,000 per year fee for every H-1B visa holder. And that's a game changer. It's not ideal. The ideal policy is that you scrap H-1B. We don't need any more temporary workers to take specialist jobs from Americans. Think about it. The job market is anemic. It's frozen. Young people are dying out here. You have inflation. You have student loans. People can't afford a house. And at the same time, nobody could even get on the on-ramp of getting a job. And we're bringing in 120,000 H-1B visas this year alone. That's a huge problem. Why do we need them? Give the jobs to American college graduates. Give the jobs to American specialists. It's like inexcusable at this point. Nobody's hiring, and yet we're hiring 140,000 Indians this year. It's not acceptable. So ideally, you just scrap it. Maybe this is the next best thing. Trump says that for H-1B, the employer is going to have to pony up and pay $100,000 per application. Now, for context, the previous fee was $2,000 to $5,000. Why is this the next best thing? If the problem with H-1B is that it is a pipeline for cheap labor, imposing a $100,000 fee makes the cheap foreign labor very expensive. Why is Silicon Valley trying to flood the zone with Indians? It's because the Indian labor is cheaper than American labor. That's why they want it. They're cheaper, they're more compliant. So if you start charging Silicon Valley $100,000 per year, foreign labor is no longer cheap. American labor just became the cheap labor. If you got to pay an Indian H-1B visa holder a salary and then pay them six figures on top of that, well, forget about it. Foreign labor is no longer cheap. Now they're going to go for the American labor. But the reason that that's effective is because it's annual. If it's annual, then that means now there's a $100,000 per year tax in addition to the salary. Now nobody's going to want to hire foreign unless it's absolutely necessary. Unless you absolutely cannot get that labor in America. And so when this announcement was made on Friday, everybody celebrated, including myself. I went live on Friday and said this is an incredible announcement because now they've just priced Indians out of the American labor market. Now, finally, maybe some of these tech jobs can go to American college graduates because who would want to pay an Indian $100,000 more? Now it's cheaper to do American. But, of course, we should not be surprised that a few days later, it turned out that the entire policy was a lie. It wasn't 48 hours later that we found out that no, it was not a $100,000 per year fee. It was a $100,000 one-time fee. It's a one-time fee, which defeats the whole purpose. Because the thing about H-1B is that it's renewable. You can renew it every year for many years. You renew it every 3 years. And after 6 years, you get eligible for a green card. Now, over 6 years or longer, do you think an employer would find it worthwhile to invest at the outset $100,000? Of course they're willing to do that. $100,000 divided by 6 is nothing compared to $100,000 times 6. If you have to bring on an H-1B visa for 3 years is how you renew it, that's $300,000. That's $100K per year. You're tacking that onto the salary. as opposed to you pay $100,000 at the start and you can renew it indefinitely, well, then that's nothing. And these tech companies, they need the labor now more than ever. Now that AI is supposed to be the next big technological boom, now that that's supposed to bolster the GDP and create this unprecedented economic growth, of course they're going to pay for AI engineers, for developers, programmers, whatever, for the new chip manufacturing plants, the new chip fabrication facilities. Of course they're going to invest $100,000 up front. That's nothing to them. And what's particularly egregious about this is that they literally just straight up lied. Howard Lutnick said 4 or 5 times on Friday, it's per year, it's per year, it's $100,000 per year. Then we saw the text of the order, and they said it's not per year, it's one time. So they just lied. This guy's a clown. Howard Lutnick is a clown. And frankly, so is Trump. That's a lie. And here's the worst part about it. Well, let's get to that in a moment. They lied about another aspect of it as well. When we found the text of the executive order, we found that not only is it not a per year fee, it's a one-time fee, we also found out that it doesn't apply to the existing H-1B visa holders. So there's hundreds of thousands of H-1B visa holders currently in America. They authorize 140,000 per year, and that cap is met every single year for decades. Every single year for decades, 140,000 new H-1B visas are giving out, and those accumulate. So we've got tons of H-1B workers currently in America, currently taking and sitting on good tech jobs that Americans cannot have, getting what should be good, high-paying jobs. This executive order doesn't apply to them. It only applies to any new H-1B visa holders, any new H-1B visa applicants. So it doesn't apply to the hundreds of thousands of existing foreign labor. It only applies to the new applicants. And for the new applicants, it's not yearly, it's one time. So while we're flooding America with cheap foreign labor, well, Silicon Valley just has to pay a little bit more money to the federal government. Here is why this is so evil. Let's be very clear about what happened. This is what people are missing about this, okay? Why is it that we thought this was a good thing? Why is it that we are against H-1B? It's because we want Silicon Valley companies to create and generate real wealth for Americans. Silicon Valley is maybe the only sector in America that is still making things, that is still growing at a very high rate. Silicon Valley, the software that they create, the innovations they create, this is our gold. This is our oil. The entrepreneurship, the research and development, the market that America provides, this is what makes Silicon Valley rich. And Silicon Valley should be making America rich. In Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in the Emirates, they sell oil. They sell oil, it makes their country rich, and they use the money they make to invest in their people. They give their people money. They give their people an education. They give their people services, amenities. They provide law and order. They provide top-rate medical care, entertainment. They literally just give their people a stipend. It's unbelievable. They have this resource. It makes them rich, and they make their people rich. They make their people wealthy with it. Our oil, our gold, is Silicon Valley. It's the entrepreneurship here. And if America's public institutions, if American consumers, if the American market, if American entrepreneurship, the American system, if that has made Silicon Valley rich, and that is driving the profits of Wall Street, and that is driving the profits of the billionaires, That should be making Americans wealthy too. They should spread the wealth to Americans. And what is one of the ways that you would spread that wealth? You should give Americans those jobs. The AI jobs, the software jobs, the dev jobs, the engineering jobs, those jobs should be given to young Americans. If somebody is making good money and in the most advanced, important, prestigious, powerful, lucrative sectors, those all-important positions should be staffed by Americans. That should be an investment in American human capital. Silicon Valley should be paying for American education. They should be paying for Americans to get educated. They should be paying for top-rate talent to be scouted. They should be paying for those people's health care, their housing.
Goofed.
They should be raising them up to be the smartest, most brilliant, most elite people in the world. If we have a technocracy, to the extent that we have something like that, to the extent that we have a rule by experts, a rule by technologists or technocrats, it should be Americans that have those positions. They should be the ultra wealthy. They
Damn,
should
just
be
turned that shit
the
around.
super class that runs America, that runs the world.
Book.
Instead, what does Silicon Valley do? They betray America. Silicon Valley is run by foreigners for foreigners. It is run by foreigner entrepreneurs for their profits, and they exploit foreign labor inside America to help themselves. And they do it inside our country, extractively. There's something deeply evil about this. So why did Americans celebrate when Howard Lutnick said, we're going to charge you $100K per year? Because we said, finally, Silicon Valley will work for America. Not to make China rich, not to make Indians rich, not to make Indians Americans, but Silicon Valley would work for America. Americans work for Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley works for America. It makes Silicon Valley wealthy. It makes America wealthy. We thought that that would be a step in the right direction and help give Americans a leg up. But the reason why they passed this policy, what is hidden inside the deception here, what's the difference between $100K per year and a one-time $100K payment? I'll tell you the difference. What $100K per year does is it prices Indians out of that labor market. What a one-time $100K payment does is it lets Indians keep coming in, but it just gives the government money. Understand the difference? A one-time $100,000 payment is not prohibitively expensive. All it does is create a slight barrier to entry. You pay the toll, and then the Indians are home free. You pay the toll, and then you still get the pipeline flooding America with cheap labor. So what, in effect, does the one-time payment do? It does nothing to deconstruct the pipeline of foreign labor. If anything, it just gives an incentive to bring in more foreign labor than ever. What it does, by charging $100K, is it just pads the government with a little bit more money. And when you understand the other policies that were announced the same day, this makes a lot more sense. Because what were the other policies?
I was close to a checkmate. I wish you didn't do that.
In addition to the H-1B policy, which they lied about, they also announced a $1 million and a $5 million citizenship program. If a foreigner gives the government $1 million, they become a citizen. If a foreigner gives the government $5 million, they become a citizen and they don't have to pay taxes in America. So what are they really doing here? Every new H-1B applicant has to pay us $100K. Every rich foreigner that wants citizenship has to give us $1 million or $5 million. This is a money grab. This is a money grab for the federal government. That's what this is about. They want to flood the country with foreigners. Our citizenship is for sale. Voting, citizenship, all the benefits that American citizenship, our fucking birthright, confers, they're selling it for cash. They're selling it for cash. Just like they're selling the right to flood America with cheap labor. That's what this is about. This is a cash grab for the federal government, which is insolvent. The debt is hovering around $36 trillion. The deficit is $2 trillion per year. The interest payment is going way up because the federal funds rate is extraordinarily high compared to what it was for 20 years. The country is going bankrupt. And so what the government is trying to do is to raise as much money as possible through tariffs. They're trying to raise money by selling citizenship and charging a toll for foreign labor, while they continue flooding the country with foreign labor and foreign millionaires and billionaires. Now, here's the point. They deliberately misrepresented it. The deeper point is they knew that Americans voted for Trump to be America first when it comes to the labor market. They knew that if the base heard that we're charging $100K per year, that we would think that was America first. They intentionally lied to sell their real agenda, which is to keep flooding the job market with foreign labor while doing a cash grab. And if you charge $100K one-time fee, the government is going to want a lot more H-1Bs. Because the more H-1B visa applications you can approve, the more $100,000 checks are going to come in. If anything, it just justifies eliminating the cap on H-1Bs. The government is going to want as many H-1B applications as they can file because that's $100,000 a pop. So not only is it not what was promised, it's actually the opposite of what was promised. And they lied about what it was to sell you the opposite of what you actually wanted. A cash grab for the government and actually increasing the pipeline of foreign labor. That's the Trump administration. That's what they do. And this is why we say you
thought he was frying me too. Look how many pieces he had.
This is how they operate. They're telling you something like this. They're telling you that when we make promises and don't deliver, it's because we need more time. We need a bigger majority. We need more votes. We need more money. When in reality, they're just lying to you. Like, that's the game. Every election cycle, they lie to your face. And they say, we're going to do mass deportations. They know they're not doing that. They know that's not going to happen. They're misrepresenting that to you. They know you want that. They know if they promise you that, you will vote for them. They have no intention of delivering it. And then when they win and they pass $150 billion for border enforcement, then they give a speech and say, yeah, we're not going to deport any illegal immigrant that has a job. They campaign and they say, we're going to put American workers first. We're going to protect the job market. They say things like, we're going to charge $100K per year per H-1B so that Americans can get these jobs. They're lying. They know they have no intention of doing that. The next day it comes out, it's a one-time fee, probably so that they can blow up the cap on foreign labor and they can make a lot of money doing it. And then once that happens, the shills go on Twitter and then they tell you Trump is really trying his best, but he's confused. Well, but the forces inside the government are fighting us. This is why we need to vote in the midterms to strengthen our majority. That's why we say you fell for it again. Because earnest Americans, they want the same thing every year for 30 years. Every year for 35, 40 years, people have gone to the polls, and here's what they want. They want fewer immigrants. They want fair trade. They don't want foreign wars, and they don't want corruption. This is basically what people are voting for 40 years. We're tired of seeing illegal immigration and open borders. We're tired of free trade, which is taking everybody's jobs and manufacturing and factories, making us all materially poorer. We're tired of bank bailouts, corporate tax cuts, quantitative easing, inflation. And we're tired of fighting in Iraq. Like, that's what we voted for 40 years. And whether you vote for it when it's Obama, whether you vote for it and it's Trump, you just get more of the same all the time. That's the problem inherent in all of it. So make no mistake about what they did. This wasn't an oopsie. Oh, well, we said 100K per year, we meant one time. No, this was a calculated deception. They lied. They knew the base would get excited for it, and then they thought in the fine print it would contain the opposite of what they told you they were doing, stabbing you in the back. It doesn't get worse than that. That's Howard Lutnick. That's your Jewish commerce secretary, the most powerful commerce secretary in generations, who is a Jew that was friends with Epstein, that Trump hired. That is who is doing it to you.
Damn, that joint ended? Fool. Let's catch another one. This was good.
Your opinion of me. I'm Middle Eastern, married to a white girl. Do you think it's better off for America to minimize more of me coming to America?
America is no longer America. Mass migration is changing what America is. And I want to conserve what America historically has always been.
Well, that's a little bit, that's a little bit harsh.
Well, I'm not in favor of interracial marriages. That's against my values. I want to have a white wife. I want to have white kids. That's important to me.
That's kind of racist.
I agree.
Okay.
But let's remember the context.
How bad is the video? Is it appropriate
You
to
can
just
pull
show?
it up, yeah.
Rob, can you pull it up? I'm actually curious on how bad the video is.
It's funny search query. I'm not sorry because this is a political attack. This is how political control is maintained.
So when you go a week ago and you're like, you don't need to do it. Dropping the N-word. How is your approach going to change moving forward?
I don't think there's much that needs to change.
I've seen the tweets, I've seen the videos.
I don't platform trolls.
But how are you processing this?
I'm going to tell you the truth. I thought there were things about the memorial that were distasteful. I did not like him when he was alive. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, listen, you going to the dark side of where you're going right now. Is that kind of where you're going or not at all?
I didn't even want to do the show at that time. I was looking for an off-ramp. At that point, they were trying to knock me out. It made me want to stay in the game.
I got it. Okay.
Oh, man.
So the obvious question is, why would you put Nick Fuentes on your podcast? Why would you do that? My lawyers, don't do it. You know what's a great thing? I don't have sponsorship to lose. I don't have to worry about an investor saying they're not in. No. And me, for my entire career, I'll talk to anybody. And the reason why I wanted to speak to him is because this interview happened the day after me leaving Charlie Kirk's memorial, which was the most magical revival I've been in my entire life. Charlie was 31. He's in his mid to late 20s. And I feel what we need today more than anything else is to continue talking to each other. And if we don't learn about each other, what are we going to do? Hate, misinformed, agitate, divide, continue to call each other out, and create this temperature to go higher and higher and higher? No. Guess what? You know what podcast I did with this guy? I don't know if there's a podcast that you'll learn how he became who he became. What caused him to go from being a pro-Thomas Sowell guy, pro-PragerU, to a girl at Daily Wire who he was hanging out with. I think they even liked each other at one point, that became a Jew, converted, and then did certain things, and some retweets some incidents with Ben that the temperature elevated. One after another, and then in one video while he's at a university at this Leadership Institute, where the camera is kind of angled and this girl records him saying something about blacks, that goes viral. He gets blocked from all the conservative interviews, and at a young age, he goes from here to the entire whole different level. And I asked him a couple questions. Who are you more concerned about? Jews in America or Muslims? His answer is very interesting. I asked him, who's a bigger net positive, Jews or Muslims? You're going to be surprised by the answer. It's a technical answer, but we had a very good conversation in that exchange. And then a lot of the stuff of where he's at right now, Charlie Kirk, how did Charlie Kirk inspire you? What did he inspire you? And he revealed something I've not heard him talk about before. But all in all, I actually think, here's what's going to be interesting. I actually think his audience is going to like it. I think conservatives are going to like it because you're finally getting to know who this guy is. I actually think, it's going to sound weird, I think Jews in Israel's going to like it. That's kind of crazy. Yes, I actually believe that.
This nigga just be
having
lying.
said that, I hope you enjoy
This nigga just be lying.
getting to know this individual
That nigga
that
Scar.
is both loved by groypers and hated by many. And if you're like me, you're in the middle 20% that just doesn't have a clue who the guy is, I hope you get to know him better by the time this interview, this podcast
Can I
is
turn this
done
game around,
with
chat? What do y'all think?
Nick Fuentes.
Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm supposed I could take sweet victory.
I'm not sure if I could turn this game around for real. I'm gonna try though.
What's your point? The future looks bright.
My handshake is better than anything I ever signed. It's right here.
You are a one-of-one.
My son's right about
I don't think I've ever said this before.
Okay, so we're finally doing this.
Yes, finally.
Yes. A lot of people are like, I don't think he's ever going to do it. Have him on. You shouldn't have him on, lawyers. Never have him on. This is not good. You're going to be tied in a group. You're in a good place.
You're in a
That
good
makes me wanna
place.
talk to the guy. But let me tell you, yesterday I'm at Charlie Kirk's memorial. Obviously, the late, great Charlie Kirk. I'm there a couple
Damn.
times. Okay?
I don't think I
And
could
I'm
turn this
standing
game
next
around.
to
I think I'm
Adam,
fucked.
and Vinny's there, and my two boys, Dylan and
I
Tico,
believe
they just
I'm
take a picture. Take a
fucked.
picture with you. Yes, of course. We take a picture. And then the guy gets a little too close to me, a little bit uncomfortable, but he didn't seem like a weird guy. Hey, I don't know if you paid attention. He has stopped saying the N-word. Please have him on. I said, who are you talking about? He says, Nick has stopped saying the N-word. I said, no, he said it a lot a week ago. I said, no, he slowed down. He actually reacted. I said, well, we're going to have a conversation. I said, you're probably the first to know that we're having a conversation, and then obviously you're here. Appreciate you for coming out and making the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Nick, I don't know much about you except for the clips I've seen, respectfully. To me, the way I've made my money over the last, 25 years in insurance and finance was watching.
I'm about to resign. I gotta
who
roll
has
this though.
talent. And I would watch somebody, I would say, this guy's got what it takes, right? First time I had Charlie Kirk on at 23 years old, I said, there's something very special about this guy. At 23, I came to my insurance company. I said, this guy's going to be the president one day. Watch this guy closely. First time I watched Tucker, unbelievable talent. When you watch him, humor, sarcasm, intelligence, pushing back, subtle. He's making fun of you. You don't know it. The audience knows it. He knows the art. Candace, talent. Dave Smith, talent. We used to have a comedian working here called Marcelo Hernandez, who is now on SNL. I don't know if you know who he is or not. Incredible. He used to produce Adam's show. And I said, this guy's going to do something special. Now he's on SNL. Vinny, talent. I see you, the way you communicate. Very, very talented. Very capable, very talented. And I've expressed this before on the show before. But I want to know a little bit more about how you became who you are today. And then we'll cover a lot of different topics. So go to high school. 14 years old. Who is Nick Fuentes?
Well, at 14 years old, I was already very political. I've been political since really I was 12 years old.
Why is that?
Well, I just started to develop an interest in politics. There were a lot of political conversations happening due to the rise of Obama, actually, in 2008, 2012. And I wanted to know basically everything about it. You know, when you turn around that age, you start to ask questions about the world and how we all got here, and about things that happened before. And so the first thing I ever watched actually was Thomas Sowell on Uncommon Knowledge with, I think, Peter Robinson. Yeah, they're both excellent, from the Hoover Institute. And that was actually the first thing I ever watched, and I just devoured it. I devoured everything.
At 12?
Yeah, 12, 13, 14.
Who introduced you to Thomas Sowell?
I just Googled it. A buddy of mine in school was telling me about the private sector. I said, what is the private sector? What is the economy? And so I just Googled it on YouTube, and that was the first thing that came up, and I watched the whole thing, and it was just, I was enamored by it. And I told my mom, I said, I want Free to Choose by Milton Friedman. That was the first political book I ever read. And one day I came home from school, and it was there on my bed, and I read it.
First book is Free to Choose.
Yes.
Capitalism, free market capitalism, and he was it's really him and Thomas Sowell. I think he came before Thomas did, right?
He did, yes.
Right.
Yeah, well, he was from the Chicago school. So it was Friedman, Sowell, and all the others, and so I read all that stuff in middle school and high school, and at that time I was really a libertarian, because that's just what was out there at that time. That was during the Ron Paul Revolution.
And the Fed.
Right, and the Fed. And there was so much online digital content, this is early 2010s, that was being put out by young libertarians. So that's just what was out there and what was available, and so I worked through all of it. Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell, and read about all the Chicago school, even then the Austrian school, the really more libertarian economic stuff. And in high school, I was in Model UN, student council, speech team. I was very active in high school, and one of those precocious, autodidact type young guys. And
were you like this? Were you this vocal?
Oh yeah.
Were you this intense?
Yes.
So did you get in trouble a lot? Did you get in a lot of fights? Did you get picked on? Did you have bullies?
I was very outspoken. I was very extroverted about politics. I was always getting in political debates in class and in Model UN, but I didn't really get in trouble as much. What's really funny, this might interest you actually, and I've talked about this before, but when I was in Model UN, I was one of the best guys on the team. I would win first place every week, and because if you don't know Model United Nations, you simulate the United Nations General Assembly or the different committees. And it's like role play. It's like a role play game, but for the United Nations. And anyway, so I was one of the better guys on the team. And my junior year of high school, I became the head of the team. I became the secretary general of the team. But I had a major falling out with the guy that ran the team. He was ethnically Arab, I think, extremely pro-Palestine. And I, at that time, was very pro-Israel. I was on Prager University and Breitbart, and so I downloaded all the dogma from the conservative movement at that time. And so I remember we were sitting in the study hall one day, and they had all the flags of the world hanging up on the ceiling, and I said, why do we have the Iranian flag hanging up? I said, they're the #1 state sponsor of terrorism in the world. It shouldn't be up. And he told me, you got to read The Israel Lobby by John Mearsheimer and Stephen Walt. He said, you got to look at the other side. And we had this vicious back and forth about it. And that is kind of the only major problem I had with faculty over politics, ironically. Now,
so he was faculty?
Yes.
Okay, so how many years older was he from you?
Oh, he must have been his 40s.
And this school, walk me through the demo of the school. Is it a public school? Is it a private school?
It was a pretty affluent public school, mostly white.
Got it.
Outside in the suburbs of Chicago.
Naperville,
it was Lyons Township in Western Springs, LaGrange.
Okay. So it's not like it's Chicago. It's a good area of Chicago, mostly white. And would you say politically center, left, don't care, Republican? What would you say the demo was?
I would say it's pretty center left. It's very Catholic, some Catholic, some Protestant. But what's interesting about it is very liberal, but not leftist, not very progressive. So even though we were in the middle of a very progressive revolution under Obama, I mean, these guys were all liberal, but they weren't communists. It wasn't like New York or Portland.
So what year is this? When you were junior in high school, this would make it what?
2015.
2015. Okay, so this is, has Trump yet announced anything?
So he announced August 2015. So it was actually right around that time.
Got it. Okay, so you're there, you're getting into these debates in junior year, and then Trump announces, and then what do you do?
So after Trump announced, this is right around the time, he announced in June 2015. And so I was very political, obviously super engaged with the election. And at that time, so this was going into my senior year of high school, I had a radio show on the high school radio station and a TV show on the high school TV station. I did both. And one of my first shows I've ever done in my whole life was talking about the election. And that was a very crowded primary. It was like 17 candidates. I don't know if you remember back then. It was Trump and this huge field. Yeah, it was everybody. And so I went through all the candidates. And initially, I was very anti-Trump because I was a libertarian. So I was in it for Rand Paul and then Ted Cruz. And it wasn't until April or March 2016, about 7 months in to my senior year, that I really went in hard for Trump. And Trump, I would say, is the one who red-pilled me, quote unquote. He's
out of
the
all
one.
these guys, these are the guys we're looking at, right?
Right.
That was a Jeb Bush started with $140 million. He was supposed to win it. Carson had a little bit of momentum. Cruz was one of the guys that people thought could do something.
Right.
Nobody thought Trump up until I think Ann Coulter's like, who do you think today's going to win? And she made the comment that I think is going to be Trump on Bill Maher. Everybody starts laughing.
Right.
Okay, so you're in this moment. Trump red pills you first.
Yes. He red pills me on immigration, really. Because at that time, I am preoccupied with this notion of individualism. Very much like you. I mean, a lot of the stuff you say in your show, I agree with you 100%. I guess he reoriented my perspective about individualism. Because what I started to understand is that, you remember, in 2015, it felt like the left was unstoppable. It felt like Obama and then Hillary Clinton were going to lead this progressive revolution, and it was just going to get more left every day forever. More pro-woman, more pro-gay, more diverse. And at that time, what felt so suffocating was this kind of political chokehold the country was in. The media's left-wing, Hollywood's left-wing, the press is left-wing. And what woke me up about Trump is one day I was watching the primaries, early primary elections, and Trump was winning all of them. He didn't win the Iowa caucus, but he won in New Hampshire, won in Nevada, and I remember the media was beside themselves, calling it every day for him. And I said, the one thing that Trump has right is he understands in order to take power, well, in order to do what you want to do, you got to take power first. In order to take power, you have to engage the media, because the media is really the enemy. It's a very early kind of understanding of how politics actually works.
And fake news, he hasn't even said fake news yet. So this is pre him saying fake news.
Exactly. But he would fight the moderators in the debates, even Fox News, because Roger Ailes had it out for him early on. And I said, he's going to fight the mainstream media. That's essential, because if you can't fight the media, you can't win. If you don't win, you can't do what you want. And then I thought about immigration and how it's affecting the voting patterns, because I looked at one meme in 2016, and it said, this is what the 2012 election would look like if only white men voted, if only men voted, if only, I'm sure everybody's seen it. And what became clear is that if only non-white people are voting, the country, they vote 90% left. Blacks voted 97% for Obama in 2008, in 2012. If immigration is making the country less white, and if non-white people only vote Democrat, Asians is like 75%, Hispanics at that time 70%, blacks 90%. I said, it's clear where the country's going to go, what direction this is headed in. I said, so, and the reason this is happening is because these people aren't assimilating. So before we can even think about individualism, the Constitution, et cetera, we got to take out the media. And by take out, you know, what I mean by that is you got to fight back. And two, you have to secure the border, because if the Democrats bring in all these illegals and legal immigrants, they're going to flip Texas, and that's the way it's going to go. And that was kind of the first realization. That's what made me say I'm all in it for Trump, even though ideologically I wasn't really with him just yet.
Because you're a libertarian at the time.
Right.
Right. Okay, I'm following. So now you're all in for Trump. He's the closest thing to a libertarian. I don't know. I don't think it was Joe Jorgensen, right? Who was a candidate at the time for
Gary
the libertarian?
Johnson.
Right. Yes, you're not going to go Gary Johnson, right? I think he got, is he the one that didn't know the capital of a country? And I don't know what it was.
Yeah,
Something
Aleppo.
was, yeah, that's what it was. And it's like, oh my God, this guy can't be in, and they moved on. That was an easy one for him. So you're in that moment. I'm going to go all Trump. What happens next?
So I go all Trump, and I'm a big Trump guy. I get my MAGA hat, and I'm all excited about it, and I volunteer for the campaign and everything. And so he wins the primary in the spring of 2016. Convention happens, I think, July 2016. I enter college at Boston University in September 2016. And this is the first time I've lived outside Chicago. I've lived in the same place my whole life. And
I
it's
think
important to impress
starting to
upon
turn
you
around
and
here.
maybe everybody, like where I grew up. It's like this pocket of America that never changed. It's a baseball town. Everybody's white. Everybody's obsessed with baseball. Everybody's Catholic. So growing up, I'm going to CCD, which is like catechism class for Catholics. Everybody loves baseball. There's an annual parade where you go and eat hot dogs and play baseball. So this is a place that is untouched by, like I said, even though they're liberal, they're not even really progressive. It's untouched by the progressive politics, by a lot of the diversity, even the crime. It's safe, white picket fences. Take a trip down to Western Springs, Illinois. I mean, you'll see what I mean. It's like the land that time forgot. I go to college in Boston, totally different story. Boston's obviously super diverse. It's a lot of young people because it's all schools, it's all universities, and they're all from Asia, all foreign students, and they're all Chinese, they're all from these Asian countries. And there's also, it's a little dangerous. There's a little criminal element, and everyone on the campuses, they're militant left wing. And that was kind of a culture shock. And I kind of realized in that moment, most of the country looks like this now, actually. New York, LA, Miami, the big cities, and most people live in the cities, they all look like this because of immigration, because of left-wing progressive politics. And I kind of said, in that moment, my slice of America that I grew up with is a dying breed. It's literally going extinct. And I like my upbringing. I love my upbringing. I want to, if I have a family, I want to raise my kids in a place like that. But in 50 years, will there be places like that? The country's going to become majority minority in the 2030s. So when I'm old and gray and I have grandkids, what is the country they're going to look like?
And you're questioning this. You're questioning, you're having this dialogue, you're asking yourself, I'm concerned that I'm going to lose the identity of what it means to be an American. Is it more that? Is it more Caucasian? Is it more white? What do you mean it's going to lose its identity?
It's all of that. It's all of that. That it's not going to be white people. It's not going to be Christian. It's not going to be speaking English. It won't be safe. No baseball. No hot. Like all these different layers of identity are kind of being
Who are you
blown up.
sharing this concern with at the time? Are you talking to friends, mentor, peers, relatives, parents? Who are you talking to about this?
It's all my friends in college.
Okay, so this is on BU. You're talking to them.
Yes.
And are they agreeing, disagreeing? What are they saying to you?
Well, we all basically agreed. So we all met at the there was a watch party for the first debate between Trump and Clinton. All four of us, we were the only Trump supporters on the whole campus. And we all met at this watch party.
Is this the one that said you'd be in jail? No, that's the second one, right?
Yes, that's the second one. So it was at the first one. We all met, and we developed this kind of tight-knit friendship.
What month is this? Is this September of 15?
September 16th.
September 16th. Okay, got it.
Right. And so, we all get together, and what was interesting at that time, and this was kind of like a cultural moment, is that remember that Trump, when he came around, there was just this explosion on the right wing. They called it the alternative right. That had a very different connotation in 2016 than it did in 17. Because in 16 and even 2015, what it meant, up to that point, the GOP and conservatism meant kind of like one thing. It meant like Rick Santorum, like cultural conservatism, traditional,
Karl Rove,
right, all that kind of stuff. And Trump comes along and says, well, I'm kind of agnostic on health care. We just want to take care of everybody. He was more of a Pat Buchanan, Sam Francis, like nationalist. And so there was this explosion on 4chan and on Twitter of a lot of young right-wing guys that were asking, well, what does it mean to be right-wing? And so there's guys like Stefan Molyneux and Jared Taylor and Steven Pinker and Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro. All these guys come into the fold, and it's much more aggressive. It's younger. It's more dynamic. It's a lot of new ideas or maybe old ideas presented in a new way. And so we were kind of holding like this salon, like this intellectual salon at the Tasty Burger by Fenway, talking about all these new people that are coming around. Richard Spencer, for that matter, Peterson, race and ideas like race realism, like Western chauvinism, people like Gavin McInnes. And we were all kind of developing our ideas and what we thought was right. And ironically, none of these guys were even white. One of them was Turkish. One of them was actually Assyrian. I know you're Assyrian.
Who was that?
So he's an Assyrian guy from
Really?
Australia.
Wow.
Yeah, some young man.
Wow. Was he a Christian man or no?
He was Christian.
A Syrian man from Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay.
And one of them was Jewish even. And so he was Russian Jewish. And a lot of people say about me, I mean, I'm an American ethnic. I'm not English or German. I'm
Fuentes. What's Fuentes?
Mexican.
And who's your dad's Mexican?
My father's half Mexican, yes.
What's his other half?
Irish.
And then mom?
She's all Italian.
All Italian. Parents, when we're talking to the crew, they're telling me that mom had some influence politically. Is it mom that had more influence politically or dad?
I really wasn't too influenced in that way. Really more by my grandmother, by my mom's mother. She was very conservative.
Who did she believe in? Who was her heroes? She would say, Nick, you got to follow this guy. Nick, you got to read this book. Nick, you got to watch this. Who would she talk about?
She loved Mark Levin.
I got it. Okay. So, super safe, conservative, pro-Israel. This is who your grandmother was. Okay. So now let's fast forward to where you're at with Trump. He's there. You're on BU. You're talking to these guys, Jordan Peterson, Gavin McInnes, a Syrian guy from Australia, even one guy that's Turkish, Jewish. You're talking to all these guys. What is that looking like? What's happening with you at that time?
So we're debating. We're really kind of getting down into what it means to be right-wing. Because like I said, I'm having this evolution. I was libertarian from like 12 to 17. Trump kind of changed the way I think about things. Then I'm in college, and I'm meeting these people, and I'm on Twitter. I'm looking at all these new intellectual figures, and we're debating, for example, the idea of race. Immigration is the issue of 2016. We're talking about illegal immigration, legal immigration, and we're talking about really the big topic is the demographic change. America was a white country. It's becoming a non-white country through immigration. And we're talking about the impact that that's going to have. What does it really mean for us? Yes, they're going to vote Democrat, probably. Will they vote Democrat forever? Yeah, they're not quite like us. Can they ever be like us? What does it mean to be white versus black, or white versus any other race for that matter? And we kind of get into the idea, I guess maybe the big idea is the politics of identity. That politics maybe is less about, whereas libertarians are obsessed with individualism, which is an abstract concept, the individual as it relates to the state. This is abstract. We're now talking about the politics of identity, which is concrete, which is particular, not general, not abstract, but concrete and particular. You have white people and black people. They come from specific places, and they bring with them their genetics, they bring with them their culture, their way of doing things. And we're saying we less believe in conservatism than we believe in America specifically. And that was kind of, I guess, the big pivot I made. And that's why I started my show, which was called America First, which was this nationalistic show as opposed to libertarian or conservative.
Okay, so you start your show, America First. You're pro-Trump. You're supportive of Trump. You're going through what you're going through. Give me a couple inflection points where you start kind of flipping and you're no longer pro-Israel. What were some of those events? Was it a book? Was it a conversation? Was it things you studied? What was that like?
Well, the biggest thing is that I met this girl named Cassie Dillon. She was a fellow at Daily Wire. She now goes by Cassie Akiva. So she was in school around the same time. She was in Western Massachusetts studying. And we met because we ran in the same college Republican circles. And she's the one that got me this show at RSBN, Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, that's her.
So she's still with Daily Wire?
Yeah, she was there. She left, and then she came back.
Okay.
And so, I met her, and at that time, she was a Christian. She converted to Judaism. She married a Jewish guy and converted. When I met her, she was a Christian, or she had been raised Christian. And we became very good friends. We went to the Christmas party, and we hung out, and I went on her show, and she got me my show.
Nothing like a attractiveness, just a friendship.
It might have been going in that direction,
Okay.
but no, nothing like that materialized. So, yeah, we were just friends, and I started to notice something was up because Trump's doctrine was America first, and that was so attractive to me. He said, we will no longer be misled by the siren song of globalism. It's going to be Americanism, not globalism. And that really sunk into me. And I'll never forget, this was in December 2016. This is what did it for me. And I wrote an article about it on my blog. I had a blog at that time. And I noticed that Obama, who was still the president during the lame duck period, he told our ambassador to the United Nations not to veto a resolution condemning the West Bank settlements. So there's a resolution saying Israel's settlements in the West Bank are illegal. Normally, the United States vetoes that on behalf of Israel to protect them. But Obama instructed our ambassador to abstain. And so the resolution went through. And everybody on the right wing said Obama's an anti-Semite. He hates Jews because he did that. And I said, wait a second. I went through and I did the research, and I said ever since 1967, during the Six-Day War, when Israel occupied the West Bank and Gaza Strip, it has been the official U.S. policy that we do not support the civilian settlements. That's technically illegal under international law. I said, so all Obama did was really uphold the same policy that every president did, Republican and Democrat, yet they're calling him a Jew hater. I said, I don't think Obama hates Jews. Obama's supported by the Jewish left. People like Saul Alinsky mentored him or influenced him. So I don't think he hates Jews. I think that he's just carrying out our policy. And so I said, how is that any different than when, let's say, a conservative critiques BLM, they get called a racist. You critique feminism, you get called a sexist.
Where you working at that time? Were you working anywhere? You were independent?
I was independent.
Okay, so you're not with anybody while you're writing this.
Right.
So you're free to write and say whatever you want. Okay,
Right.
Continue.
Yeah, so I was just on my own blog, and so I wrote that out. I said, this is hypocritical. I said, and this is something that crops up over and over, is this double standard when it comes to anti-Semitism, when it comes to Israel, and I called this out. And Cassie Dillon, who was my friend, I would raise this issue with her, and I would criticize Ben Shapiro very harshly. He was very anti-Trump at that time. And I said, I think Ben Shapiro is Israel first. And I think that when Trump says in his inaugural, it's America first, why is it that Israel gets all this foreign aid? They're the #1 recipient for 50 years. They're not a poor country. Why is it that much largesse? And so I would press her on this and other related questions. And eventually she threw arms up in, I think it was March 2017. And she said, we are no longer in the same movement. She said, you are anti-Israel. The way you're going about this is anti-Semitic.
This is Casey.
This is, yeah, Cassie Dillon.
Cassie Dillon.
She goes, you're attacking Shapiro and in an anti-Semitic way. I don't like your tone. She said, and I really want nothing to do with you anymore. And so she blocked me on Twitter. And my whole friend group, who was with Daily Wire, Elliot Hamilton, Aaron Bandler, all these other writers at Daily Wire, they all blocked me. They would not talk to me. And then,
Now you guys all know each other. You've hung out on your friends.
yes,
In what context do you guys hang out? Because you're not with Daily Wire.
right. So we would hang out at, we hung out at the Christmas party for the Massachusetts College Republicans that she hosted. And
Got it.
I did her show a couple of times.
Nothing real. Oh, so you did do her show on Daily Wire.
Not on Daily Wire, on RSBN.
Okay,
She had
got
a
it.
show.
Okay.
Yeah. And so,
So they all block you. They want to have nothing to do with you at the time.
right.
We're not on the same page. We're going different direction. Has she yet converted to Judaism or not yet? She's still a Christian at the time.
She had begun the conversion at
Got
that
it.
point.
And were you seeing the evolution of that happening or
I
no?
was, yes.
Was she seeing somebody while you guys were talking or no?
I don't believe she was.
Okay,
But she
so-
had been to Israel a bunch of times.
So why was she wanting to convert? Why was she going through that process? What was her reasoning? Did she tell you?
No, we never discussed it on an intimate level.
So till today, you guys have never cleared it up why she became a...
Never, no.
Well, maybe she can send you an email because I want to know. I'm curious to know why that
I do
happens.
too, yeah.
Yeah, I'd want to know why that happened. Okay, so now when that happens, you're on August 18th. When's your birthday?
August 18th. yeah.
Okay, so what's the first emotion you're getting? You're by yourself. She tells you this. Everybody gets blocked. What is it? Is it anger? Is it resentment? Is it I'm going to get him? Is it vengeance? What's the first emotion you're feeling?
I was stunned. I was honestly just shocked because, the idea on the right wing is we're the marketplace of ideas. And so nothing's